Now, in this concept, the fifth one, this is cache memory. Actually, spelling wise, it is CACHE, cache, but we have to pronounce it as cache memory. Before explaining the features and functionality of this cache memory, I have to tell about your behavior or our behavior. Actually, when we are using several articles in our daily life, what are frequently used articles we put in some place, a special place, because we can access them very easily. Okay, suppose you have dozens of books and all that. Out of that, some books you use regularly or frequently and all that. You keep them in a separate shelf and all that. By that, you can save a lot of time. Lot of time. This is the logic behind creating the cache memory. Actually, certain data is to be uh, accessed by CPU very frequently. Very frequently, it has to access the data for processing and processing purpose. Then, if it is in the main memory, actually it takes more time. In order to reduce the average time of access to the frequently used data, the cache memory is created. Because of the cache memory, the CPU can access that data very lesser time, faster, quickly, and it can save time. That's why it is called CPU's memory also. It is normally created on RAM. Sometimes it may be created on hard disk also. If it is created on RAM, it is called memory caching. And if it is created on hard disk, it is called disk caching. Actually, it is created on static RAM, because static RAM is high speed RAM than comparatively with dynamic RAM. So, this point you understand. And where cache memory mainly used is in IO operations. Actually, when you are typing on keyboard and all that, being a human, our speed is much millions of times lesser than computer speed. Actually, that data should go to memory. So memory is a high speed device comparatively with the human being. That's why in this case, in order to equate that and all that, cache memory is used. So cache memory, in order to equate speeds and all that, cache memory is used mainly in reading and writing operations. This much of information you should have. Basically, one point is whatever data is frequently to be accessed by the CPU is stored in the cache memory. Because of the placement of such data in the cache memory, CPU can access it much faster than it is stored on the RAM. Now, the sixth concept, buffer memory. In fifth concept, I explained cache memory. Now, buffer memory. There is a slight difference between the both. Buffer memory is also a temporary memory like cache memory. It is created only on RAM. Actually, I told you cache memory may be created on RAM, sometimes on hard disk also. Okay, and cache memory is created on static RAM because it wants more speed. It is high speed memory. And buffer memory is normal speed memory storage, and this is created on dynamic RAM, not on static RAM. So here also the basic purpose of this is equating the speeds. Suppose we are we are inputting certain data, we are sending some data. The and the receiving component, if it is having the same speed and all that, both are matched. But if it is high speed device and all that, there is a need for equating the data. Equating the data. For that purpose, mainly in IO process, input or output process, these buffers are used. And here one example I have to tell you. Actually, when we are writing data on a CD-ROM and all that, then a buffer is created. What is the purpose of that? Actually, the matter is generated by CPU and goes to the memory. Ultimately, it transfers for the disk. But disk's writing speed is very less. Disk writing speed is very less. So until disk is completely written, CPU should be engaged. CPU should be engaged. Then what is the way out? Then the buffer is created. Buffer is created. Whatever data is delivered by CPU is stored in the buffer. Then CPU becomes free. CPU can concentrate on other jobs and all that. Then from buffer to that for writing on DVD, it is transferred. That is called burning. Burning purpose is transferred. So what you can understand here, CPU is relieved from its duty because of the presence of buffer. Otherwise, until disk is fully burnt, then CPU should wait. CPU should engage for delivering the data. And other example I have to tell you. In case of printing process also, actually you want to print some data, then CPU delivers it. But printer may not take the data in such speed. In such case, CPU must be engaged or busy until the printing job is over. So here buffer is created. Printing buffer is created. Whatever data is delivered by CPU is stored in the printing buffer, and CPU is relieved, and CPU can focus on other jobs, and whatever data is filled in the buffer is remained in the buffer until printing job is over. Understand? Because of that reason, in IO, input and output of the disks, printers and all that, this buffer memory is useful to equate speeds and all that. Actually, in case of printer buffer and all that, the process is called spooling. That you have to remember. That is the basic difference between cache memory and buffer memory. Now, let us consider the differences between cache memory and buffer memory. By this, you can have clear understanding over both the concepts. The first similarity is both are temporary storage areas only, temporary storage areas, and as far as buffer is concerned, it is created only on RAM. As far as cache memory is concerned, it is normally created on RAM, and it may be created on hard disk also. If it is created on RAM, it is memory caching, and if it is created on hard disk, it is called disk caching. Okay, and as far as cache memory is concerned, this is high speed memory. It is also known as CPU memory. And buffer is concerned, it maintains the normal speed. And cache memory is created on static RAM because to maintain high speed, and a buffer memory is created on dynamic RAM. Actually, buffering memory is mainly used for IO processes to equate the speeds and all that, mainly in burning CD-ROMs and in printing process and all that. In the printing process, this technique is called spooling. As far as cache memory is concerned, it what are the frequently used data and all that, it is stored in cache memory, By that, CPU can save time in access such data if it has to actually all data is available in main memory. So instead of accessing main memory, accessing CPU memory is much faster and efficient. That's why CPU can save its average time of accessing data. That is the basic purpose of the cache memory. This, these differences you must keep in mind.